like to welcome you all, of course, but how proud we are to have you as part of the Packers. Just as you should be proud to be here to be part of this team.
As we got to the late 90s, we understood that revenue-wise, we were falling lower and lower in the NFL. We knew we needed to upgrade the stadium to provide the amenities and revenue sources that the newer stadiums had. We looked at maybe doing a new stadium, but the cost was prohibitive for our franchise. Plus, we wanted to keep the history and tradition that Lambeau Field represented. We did not want to have to leave Lambeau Field for a couple of years. It was about a 3-year process, and we were able to stay in Lambeau Field, upgrade it significantly, make it a like-new stadium in terms of the modern amenities, newer concessions, newer concourses, newer premium areas, but keep the history and tradition that is known and respected and well-loved in the bowl. In our minds, we have the best of old and new with what became the redeveloped Lambeau Field. Lambeau Field goes back to 1957 when it was known as City Stadium. When Curly Lambeau passed away in 1965, they renamed City Stadium Lambeau Field in his memory. When people think of Lambeau Field, they think of the Packers, they think of Green Bay, and the unlikely story that the success of the Packers is. If you think back, we're now in our 101st season. Early on, we were on our proverbial deathbed for years, 50 plus years. And our shareholders, through 3 offerings, literally saved the team from going bankrupt.
I tell people this is the greatest story in sports. I don't think there's anything that compares with it. The Packers have played in an old wooden high school field that's still standing and still used for high school football from 1925 to 56. By the early 40s even, it had become outdated. But the big debate here was over which side of the river was going to get the stadium. East Siders wanted to either rebuild the old stadium or at least keep the stadium on the east side. And a couple aldermen on the west side said, hey, this is impractical, especially when they started talking about rebuilding behind a high school with no parking, no highways nearby. And eventually the west side won out. But it was a bitter battle. I mean, they had riots here. They tore the downtown apart over the East-West football game. I mean, I'm talking serious. We're not just talking a friendly rivalry. So finally the Packers stepped in and said, hey, we'll pay for this study. And then things got moving, and finally enough East Side aldermen caved in, and this firm selected a site nobody had discussed where the field is presently located, and that's how it ended up there. Technically, it might not have been the first stadium built for pro football, but in essence, it really was. And it was a huge, probably the biggest weekend in Green Bay's history in September of '57 when they dedicated it. And just to show you the difference in times, it was done at a preseason game, and the ceremony probably took about 3 minutes. Zero pomp and pageantry. Part of that was Lombardi was fought against. Actually, the entire Packer organization fought against renaming it in Lambeau's honor. But that was one case where the public won out. I mean, the fans and the citizens of Green Bay basically demanded it. And the people that saved this team, there was a core of wealthy businessmen here, a lot of old money, that dug into their own pockets to keep it alive. And that was really the key to keeping this team alive through the 40s and maybe until the stadium was built in 1957. It really is a miracle they've survived. The Green Bay Football Corporation was formed in '23. That's when the Packers became owned by their fans. 1931, a fan fell out of the stands at Old City Stadium, sued for $20,000. The jury awarded him $5,000, and because it was the Depression, Packers Insurance Company had gone out of business, they couldn't pay it. So they went into receivership for 17 months. We made it through that, and that's when the Green Bay Packers Incorporated, the second community-owned corporation, was founded. Truth is better than fiction in this case. You couldn't make up a story this good.
We realize we've got something special here. We're on so many people's bucket list to take in Lambeau Field, to experience a game at Lambeau Field. Whether you're a Packer fan or not, you're going to have an experience that is second to none, and it reminds you what is special and historic about certainly the Packers, but the NFL as well.